The 2017 elections knocked down a lot of barriers, and I want to talk about that with senior political commentators Maria Cardona and Martin and Tara Setmeyer, the former communications director for Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. Hello, welcome to the program. Maria, last night's election results were a solid win for diversity for women, African Americans, gay and transgender were elected across the country. Many accused the president of insensitivity when it comes to women and minorities. Was this a rebuke of the president? Can you say that?
Oh, there's no question about that, Don. It was actually sweet poetic justice with all of those wins when you had, for example, a historic win in the Virginia House of Delegates by a transgender woman who took the seat of the most anti-LGBT delegate there who was the author of the bathroom bill. And so this happened across the board where you had two Latinas in the House of Delegates, you had a Sikh across the country, you had African Americans as lieutenant governors, a record amount of women who ran and won. And what I think that this proves is that it was a resounding rejection of Trump's agenda, of Trump's philosophy, of Trump's temperament, of Trump's policies, of his language, and definitely of his Twitter habits.
All right. Listen, Ed, she's talking about Danica Rowan. Let me get the question and you can respond. She's talking about Danica Rowan, who became the first nation's first openly transgender woman elected to the state legislature, defeating the longtime Republican incumbent, social conservative Robert Marshall, sponsored that transgender bathroom bill. He described himself as the state's chief homophobe. Do you don't think voters are sending a message?
No, look, I mean, those two white guys, the guy that won for governor in Virginia and the guy that won in New Jersey, they didn't exactly nominate people that were outside of the demographic that we're looking at when you look at me. I think this is cherry picking here in Missouri, for example, where I'm from. We had a state Senate race between a pretty dynamic woman and a guy, and the guy won, Republican. I think you're seeing in races where there's more money, in the case of Marshall, a lot more money, he got beat. Fair enough, that's how races go, but it was a delegate race. Everything else is elections based on, the numbers. Virginia was not a surprise to anyone that knows politics, and New Jersey was not a surprise. So the idea of reading a mandate into this seems to me a little bit far-fetched.
Do you think it's cherry picking?
As someone who does know politics, it's true that the results in New Jersey were not that surprising. It's a blue state. It went, 13 points for Hillary Clinton over Trump. And
there was a Republican governor.
Right, so Chris Christie was terribly unpopular. I mean, he won by 22 points 4 years ago. Right. So, that's not surprising. What is surprising, though, in, for example, my state of New Jersey, was how underperforming Republicans were doing in districts that they should not have been, in districts that were normally their strongholds. That's a problem. Like Rodney Freelandhausen's district, he's been there forever. He has a legacy family in his district in New Jersey, and the Republican the Democrat there outperformed the Republican in ways that no one expected, which is not good for the moderate Republicans in states like New Jersey. Now in Virginia, what was surprising to those of us who know politics was the fact that the House of Delegates down there in Virginia is about to flip potentially. No one expected that. Even people close observers of politics, no one expected that. Republicans had almost a 2-to-1 margin there, and that wave is something that should be alarming to Republicans because it's indicative of things that happened in like 2006 and 2008, where Republicans also lost considerable. They lost the House of Representatives in 2006, and then in 2008 that continued on with the wave of Barack Obama. So we can't just dismiss what took place there. There was a lot of things that you could glean from what happened.
And even I'm just going to read this because in New Jersey. In Hoboken, New Jersey, the city councilman, Ravi Bala, became the state's first Sikh mayor. His campaign had been targeted by racist flyers. You can put that up. So that is interesting. But Maria, Democrats turned out big. Yeah. But the president still has his core supporters. And I want to read part of the piece. This is from Michael Cruz from Politico today. And he revisited a town called Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where diehard Trump voters haven't changed their mind. All right, and so here's part of it. He says, Trump is simply and unceasingly angry on their behalf, battling the people who vex them, the worst obstructionists, Democrats, uncooperative establishment Republicans, the media, Black Lives Matter, protesters, and NFL players. Boy, oh boy, do they hate kneeling NFL players whom they see as ungrateful, disrespectful millionaires, and they love him for this. He spoke with a couple who called the NFL players a horrible name that included the N-word. Wow. Why such anger? And can that kind of racism ever be overcome, you think?
I do think that it can be overcome, and we actually saw it being overcome last night. I mean, let's just look at the piece that you just put up, Don. This is the President of the United States, who prides himself on representing hatred, on representing racism, on representing bigotry, on representing vengefulness, on representing anger. He represents the worst in all of us and is proud of it. And so what I would say is that what last night represented is the majority of Americans who have come out to say enough. This is not a man who represents
the majority of Americans.
I'm
Come
not
on,
finished. I'm not finished. Who have not? This is a majority of Americans who have said, like they said in the election, Ed, because he did not get the support of the majority of Americans, that he does not represent full-on American values, and that is a huge piece that Republicans really need to take a strong look at going into 2018.
Come on, Don. I mean, look, you're going to give a kind of lengthy speech on what you think the president is and that. These are off-year elections. Everybody knows in Virginia and New Jersey, we expected energy to be on the party that's out of power. That's very predictable. Everything else, I agree with the president's assessment. Virginia, I think Ed Gillespie underperformed.
She was responding to the political article.
No, but she said all that stuff about the president being somebody about hate and all this stuff. I mean,
absolutely.
It's just, she doesn't like this. She doesn't like this.
Did you hear the response from the political article that I said?
Right.
He said that Trump is simply unceasingly angry on the behalf, battling the people who
But that's someone's description.
Right, and using the N-word to.
Well, that's not acceptable, and I don't think that's not acceptable. I don't think the president does too. But when somebody is interviewed and the political article has an angle that they're taking, and all my point is that people have lots of reasons they vote for people. There were people that voted for Barack Obama because they thought about him something that you and I might not agree with. But the point is this: is the president's policies. Listen to his speech in South Korea last night. Look at him in China. He's taking on issues seriously. He's a guy that's trying to do his part. And for these people that come on your show and say over and over again they wish that we change the rules and elect our president by popular vote, that's never been the system. We have a constitution. Most people, including Hillary Clinton, thought it was a good system. So here we are. I mean,
where did that come from?
Even the president.
Well, that's what she just brought that up.
So, I mean, this is a nonsense argument. Here's the bottom line.
You're the one that brought it up.
Hold. After the break. Back now with Maria Cardona, Ed Martin, and Tara Setmeyer. I just said, you were talking about the Electoral College. It must have slipped. I didn't know that Maria mentioned it, but this is 11, 6, 12 at 11:45
What I said was that Hillary got more support than Trump.
Okay, hold on. Just so you know, you brought up the Electoral College.
Yeah.
11, 16, 12 at 11:45 p.m. You know who tweeted this? The Electoral College is a disaster for a democracy.
What did I say before the break?
You did.
That was the point I was making before we had to go to the break.
That's right.
Yeah, but we're not going to get into the money.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
Because Trump is all over the place depending on what
but wait a second, Don. No, but wait a second. Can I just say something? It's true that people make criticisms of the system, whatever the system is, before they're, whenever that. But when you run and set the rules, that's the rules Trump ran on was to win, and he won. You guys want to play chess?
Wait, hold on. Ed, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the people that are so deluded that they come on and say, "Oh, Hillary won the popular vote, therefore it's something special." It doesn't matter. That's not how you become president. So we have more. It's not how you become president.
So would you say to the president that we have a constitution and we elect presidents a certain way, and that he needs to abide by that and respect it? Would you say that to the president of the United States?
I sure would. Any president.
After he tweeted that it was a disgrace.
No, that was before he was a candidate. I mean, again, you can criticize the system. You can criticize the system anytime.
But here's the problem. But here's the problem with what Ed is saying, because he's saying that it doesn't matter that Hillary won by 3 million votes. You're right. It doesn't matter in terms of who is president, but it does matter when it comes to governing. Donald Trump does not care that he is only supported by less than a third of Americans. He does not care that communities of color feel that they are left behind and abandoned and are fearful by the kind of divisive and hateful rhetoric this president has spouted from the day that he announced his candidacy.
Can I get a word in here? Can I get a word in here for a second?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so look, all of those things, how people feel and all that at this point is reflected in the polls. The polls clearly show that 66% of Americans don't trust the president. That hurts government.
Thanks, John.
That matters.